All right, pre-cal, this is your factoring video. I'm going to put this document also in Canvas so you'll have it. But there's some vocabulary up here. I'm not going to go through that with you, but I am going to walk you through some of the factoring problems. So if you will jump down here to identifying the GCF, that is the first thing we're going to do. In number 1, the GCF is 2. So we would factor that out. That's what that would look like. In the next problem, we have an X in both of our terms. So, and then that won't factor anymore. That's all we would get. And then in this one, we have a 3 and an X squared. So we're going to factor out a 3X squared. Excellent. And that won't factor anymore. Okay, this one, we've got, each of these have, okay, we don't have a 4 in common, so that would be a 2, probably, yeah, 2. So we've got 2 and then y to the third. So 2y to the third is your GCF. So we're going to factor that out. And of course, that's what that would look like right there. Kind of ugly, but whatever, you get the idea. All right, so as you're looking through these, the quadratic equation, all right, it is going to be a polynomial in a second degree. So these are tips or types of factoring to get you started. So you're always going to start with the GCF. Sometimes you have a difference of squares, sometimes you have a sum and difference of cubes, sometimes it's a perfect square trinomial, a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1, trinomial with leading coefficient not 1, and then there's grouping. So there's lots of different kinds of factoring you can do. So if you'll notice down here, I've got an example. And I've taken out the GCF right here, and that factoring is complete. That's just all there is to it. There's more information here, what to do if you have two terms. So generally speaking, if you're asked to factor something with just 2 terms, more often than not, it's a difference of squares, meaning that you're going to take the square root of the first term, which is 2x, and the square root of the second term, which in this case is 5y squared, and then you'll have a positive and a negative in your 2 factors. All right, I talked to you a little bit yesterday in class, about sum and difference of a perfect cube. And here's your rule for that in case you forget. So, and of course I've got here as an example a difference of cubes. So just like I explained to you in class, we have a binomial and a trinomial. The first term consists of the cubed root of the first term here, which is 8x cubed, so that'd be 2x. And the second term is the cubed root of the second term here, which is y cubed, so that would be y. The same sign goes right there. And then I take 2x and I square it, and then I multiply 2x and 2y to get my middle term, and then I square y to get my last term, and then since this is negative, this is going to be opposite, and this is always plus. Okay, if there are 3 terms, well, we either have a perfect square trinomial, a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1, or a trinomial with a leading coefficient not equal to 1. And then I've given you some information here to go through this. So a perfect square trinomial, here's an example, x squared plus 6x plus 9. It doesn't look special when you're getting started. It's just that the way it factors into 2 identical factors. Kind of like you have the number 9. Well, 2 of its factors are 3 and 3. So for this situation right here, for this trinomial, you've got x squared plus 6x plus 9. It factors into 2 identical factors. All right, when you have a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1, this is the guess and check portion. So this is when I know I'm going to have 2 binomials, and I know that the last 2 terms in each binomial are going to multiply to give me that last term in my original trinomial. And I know that this value in the middle is going to be addition of this value 2x and negative 6x. So figuring out your signs, that's how you figure out your signs. You look at this sign and you look at this sign. Because keep in mind, this 12 right here, if I'm multiplying two numbers to get this and it's negative, that means I have to have a positive and a negative inside my, my factored form. All right. Trinomial with the leading coefficient not equal to 1. That's where things get messy. And the swing and divide method is given to you here, but remember, I don't really like for you to use that. So if you can do it correctly, no problem. But I've yet to meet a kid who does. All right. The grouping, I did one of these in class as well. So that's just when you group items together, and then you factor out in each of them a GCF. So once you do that, whatever's in your parentheses should be the same, and then you can factor that out. All right, so let's do some practice here. I don't think we need any GCF practice, but let's do a difference of squares. Right here, we have x squared minus 25. How can you tell it's a difference of squares? Well, there's a difference, and x squared is a perfect square, and so is 25. So that's going to get factored just like this. X, 5, 5, addition, subtraction. All done. Okay, this is a difference of squares, x to the 4th minus 1. So x squared plus 1. X squared minus 1, and here's the bad news. This x squared minus 1 will factor again. So this completely factored is going to be those three factors right there. All right, GCF and difference of squares, you can combine these. So I can factor out a 3 here, and I'm left with a squared minus 9 b squared, and then I have 3a plus 3b and a minus 3b. Okay, our sum of cubes always going to have a binomial and a trinomial. The cubed root of x cubed is x. The cubed root of 125 is 5. I had to stop and think for a minute. I know that shocks you. Okay, so our sign is a positive. I square the first term. I multiply the two terms together. I square the last term. Opposite sign, positive. Every time it's that way. Every time. Okay, difference of cubes. Binomial, trinomial. The cubed root. The cubed root. Same sign. I square, I multiply, I square, and my signs are positive, positive. Just like that. It's magical. Okay, another sum of cubes. Binomial, trinomial, cubed root, squared, multiplied, squared. Same sign, opposite sign, positive. Okay, a perfect square trinomial. X and x, 4 and 4. Beautiful. Okay, let's go down to let's do I don't like any of these. Let's do this one right here. So I've got to factor out a 2, and then I've got to see if that will factor. So 3x and x, and then a 2 and a 1. So 6 and 1 will add to give me a 5 if one of them is positive and negative. There we go. Beautiful. And then grouping, I want to do the second grouping problem right here because it's going to be a little tricky. This one is different because you have to rearrange your values, which is kind of a pain, but it's a useful thing to know. So what we're going to do, if you'll notice, if I group these together, then this term, or this second set of parentheses, is going to have a y and an x. Well, there's no way this term can have a y and an x, so that won't work. So let's try rearranging them so that, let's do it this way. Let's try that. So here I take out a 3. Here I'm going to take out a negative y. Oh, it worked. X plus 7 and 7 plus x are the same thing. If one of them had been negative, they would not be the same. Just FYI. All right, so x plus 7, 3 minus y. There you go. Okay, hopefully your factoring video helped you a little bit. I know I didn't go through all of these, but for the sake of time, I didn't want you to have to sit through all of that. But you can practice with the others, and then you can ask me for help if you need it. Enjoy.